The Huddle rolls along on Michigan Sports Radio. We say hello and welcome back in. Nate Wangler alongside Jackson Hayden. And Jackson, there are two different parts to this second portion of our show today. First of all, big shouts to Sean Judd, the strength and conditioning coach at Fruitport as well as North Muskegon. That was really fun getting a behind the scenes view of the workout at Fruitport and their final day of fall camp and everything that leads up to what they put on the field, even from a nutritional perspective. I know a lot of those things are very important, and that's what I mean. And I know you and I have talked about this, Jackson. When we say in the huddle, we mean in the huddle, right? Decision makers, the strength and conditioning, all of those things play into what we see on Fridays. And so we're going to continue to get more of those people involved in our show. But today we're taking a little bit of a detour of sorts. We're going to a different part of the state. I know we cover a lot of West Michigan area high schools. That is our focus on Michigan Sports Radio. I broadcast at Newaygo. Jackson broadcasts at Jenison. These are the schools that we are surrounded by. It's our community. But we have a section of this state that has a little bit of history involved with them. Keep in mind, there is no other city in the United States that has more rostered players in the NFL than Detroit, Michigan. None. You might look at the state of Michigan and go, well, maybe the state of high school football in Michigan isn't up to par with the likes of Pennsylvania or California or Florida or Georgia. But what I will say is there is a hotspot that produced some of the best, not only college football has to offer, but the National Football League, and that is the 313. So, Jackson, I wanted to kind of shift gears and talk about Detroit today. We put together a top 5 power rankings of Detroit area schools. And mind you, I said Detroit area because not all of them are in the city of Detroit. However, one of them is a short walk from Ford Field. And I mean a walk from Ford Field. It's a almost annual tradition for that school. But let's get into some of our Detroit-based schools. Jackson, first off, I want to start off with a ringer. Okay, this is a team that is going to be in contention to win a state title year in and year out. And I know this because they won it last year, and they won it in a laugher. Detroit Catholic Central, the Shamrocks, the first team that I'm thinking about on this list. 14-0 last year. Division I state champions. Again, it wasn't really even much of a game. The kids say they Lil Bro'd Cass Tech, and they did 42-19 in that matchup. And there's a few players that I'm really looking at coming into this season in particular. First of all, we have to start with number 1. Duke Banta is back again. Imagine, Jackson, your junior year going undefeated and winning a state championship, but you still have one more year. That's the beauty of having your star quarterback back if you're Detroit Catholic Central. They're good on their offensive line. Eric Anderson's another name that I think of. He's a big physical presence that'll certainly make an impact at the next level. I also think of Gideon Gash. I mean, where can this kid not play? He's versatile. He's all over the field. Maybe some questions in terms of turnover for Detroit CC. We won't know the answer to those until we get to week 1. It's really where you figure out those types of things. But Detroit Catholic Central, number 1 on this list. Jackson, I mean, any takes, anything you see from this team coming into this year?
I mean, how can you not favor these guys as winning another state championship? They fell short 2 years ago to Cass Tech, came back last year, like you said, absolutely annihilated the competition. This is the year Central goes back to back in Division I as state champions, right? And they don't do it without dropping a single game either. And with that, I mean, if they do that, it'll boast the single scoring defense in Michigan history as well, right? So this is a team that, I mean, they bring a lot of crowd too. I mean, their crowd in itself. I mean, you said it right down the road. I did not realize that until I went to Ford Field last year to cover Unity Christian, and I drove by their stadium. I go, whoa, that feels like home field advantage. And then you hear later that night, or later that weekend, rather, you're like over 10,000 fans show up to Ford Field, making that place look more packed than a 2008 Detroit Lions game, like that is insane. So yeah, they're going back to back this year, and there's no doubt about that.
That's not even really a hot take, in my opinion. I think you're right. And the only reason I say it's not hot is because I agree with you. I'm sure there are people out there that are like, wait a minute. It's not easy to go undefeated and win every single game and win a championship. But if you're Detroit CC, it's natural to think that may be the case. Number two on this list, I talked about the guys who, again, it is almost an annual tradition that they walk to Ford Field. Some people come from miles away. I think about Menominee, Michigan. They're essentially going through Wisconsin, what, three states to get to Michigan, let alone just to get to the city of Detroit, or they have to go through the entire UP. I don't know, you choose, right? And more than likely, it's going to be on a yellow school bus of some sort because they're just dogs like that. But Detroit Caz Tech, which Jackson, I remember my sophomore year at Grand Rapids West Catholic. We went to a state championship. We were playing after Caz Tech played their game, and we're walking out to the field, right through the tunnel to get ready for warm-ups, and we're walking down as they're coming off, right, already a head and shoulders taller than everyone on our side. And I saw Donovan Peoples Jones walk off at the same time I was going on, and he was like tapping helmets on his way off as if we were the youth team playing during the halftime show. These are some monsters. They are very good. They do have a history. That is Detroit Caz Tech and the technicians. There's a few different players that really stand out to me. I think CJ Sadler, one of the top ranked players in Michigan high school football, no surprise there. You think about Donald Tabron, the second, who's back for another year. He was just a sophomore last year. I remember watching a sophomore Bryce Underwood go up against Caledonia once upon a time, but I don't know. Would you rather play Caledonia or Detroit Catholic Central? No offense to my Caledonia friends out there. Little bit of a different test. So does he take that next step this year? They got plenty of depth. They got plenty of players. Jackson, they got 16 Division I prospects on this team. They may as well compete in the Mid-American Conference at this point. What do you see out of Caz Tech?
I mean, that's always a good question. You're like, do you think these guys can compete against a MAC team? It's kind of like when you think about 2019 LSU, could they compete against the Cleveland Browns? I think Tay Brown the second throws for over 3,500 yards. CJ Sadler continues to establish his name on the map, puts a 25 total touchdowns, maybe a little bit more. As Caz Tech, I mean, it turn the tables and win the D1 state title at Ford Field. I'm thinking there's a rematch in our future between Caz Tech, third year in a row. What do we think? A little Alabama Georgia type of situation here. I think Caz Tech comes through, and I think they make it closer than what it was last year. I think that's a certain.
It's one of those historic, well, not historic, actually. It's one of those rivalries that's born of relevancy, not necessarily because of history, but also consider the other angle to it, right? It is the epitome in so many ways of public versus private. It's Division One, major Division One, Detroit CC against Detroit Caz Tech, two of the most historic programs in Michigan high school football history. Both of them may be representing something a little bit different. So that's what makes this matchup so exciting and why I wouldn't mind seeing it again in the finals this year. Orchard Lake St. Mary's. I hate that I have a history against this team. And I say I have a history. Anybody that I went to high school with has a history with this team because we had the brilliant, wonderful idea at Grand Rapids West Catholic of, hey, let's play Orchard Lake St. Mary's to open the year for 2 straight years. That is, and for small colleges, when Akron goes to play Florida, you know why they're going there, right? They're going there because they get a paycheck, right? There's something there. They're going to come away with something, right? If it's not a win, it's going to be a bag. That's why those two teams are playing. And I don't know how it works out in high school. I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think it's more you want to expose your players to better talent. Well, yeah, when they have Allen Robinson on their team, yes, okay, you know exactly what you're getting into. they're a nightmare to play against. But 12-2 last year, they were back in the Division II state championship last year. They ended up winning that. I think of a Jabin Gonzalez, one of the state's most precise quarterbacks. His arm is lethal, coming off a junior campaign in which he orchestrated an offense over 37 points last year. That's about as lethal as you get in the state of Michigan. Chad Willis at wide receiver has been electric. What do you see out of Orchard Lake? Because I know they're capable of winning another one, but do they have the pieces to do so again? What is your takeaway from OLSM?
I absolutely think so because I think on the other side you got a team coming from the west side of Michigan too. And not to say anything bad about our west siders here, but I mean there's a clear cut difference and athleticism between both sides of the state. I think OLSM competes the three-peat this year, right? They win every single playoff game by a lot, and that's kind of a tough crowd after a couple weeks ago. I'm calling my shot with Byron Center finally winning their conference over Muskegon, because last year that's what it was. Byron Center played them close, but unfortunately, it's hard to beat teams like Orchard Lake St. Mary's, and they just produce an insane amount of collegiate talent on so many different levels. I mean, we're both in the baseball world. I covered collegiate baseball in the summer for many, many years. So many of our key pieces to those teams every summer were from St. Mary's, right? So many of them go out to the big leagues and even that in the NFL or into these big college programs. So it's hard to compete with programs like this, especially when they've got to establish at so many different sports.
Yeah, and I mean they probably could. Allen Robinson on the base paths is terrifying as well. It's fun to say that you played against those guys, but it's not fun in the moment for many a reason. So for those of you who never had the pleasure of playing Orchard Lake St. Mary's, consider yourself lucky. Let's march on to the next team, Detroit Martin Luther King. Detroit MLK. There's a team last year that was young and learned a lot of lessons, but you get the feeling that there is a tidal wave coming when it comes to MLK. They got big game experience, and that is the most crucial thing. And this is why we'll see coaches oftentimes sprinkle in underclassmen, sophomores, juniors into positions that are critical because they need that game experience going into their senior campaign. That's the only way that you end up going out and winning big games. So when I think of MLK, Jameer Henry is back, big physical interior lineman, 6'5", 327. How do you not eat up blocks at that size? I think of Don Spillers the third, wide receiver. He's listed as an athlete, right? So this is someone that you can plug and play. So you talk about the beauty of availability. Well, he has all of that. A lot of really good pieces. You think about their secondary is also very strong too. They have a lot to them. Looking at MLK, this is a team that I think they could surprise a lot of people. What do you see from MLK this year?
No, this Detroit Martin Luther King Jr. team. I mean, this is a team that, yes, they're D3, but they play against so many schools that are consistently playing for a state championship, right? Like you got teams at the D2 level, the D1 level, right? You look at the schedule last year, and they had two losses that were one possession, but otherwise their other two losses were against Cass Tech and Catholic Central, right? And then unfortunately they just ran into a Warren de La Salle, which shout out Casey Wyla, the athletic director there, former pitching coach there for the Traverse City Pit Spinners. But they ran into a school that just snuck their way into the playoffs and were hot in the playoffs, and they made a run, right? So you're not going to get that every year. This is a year you get back to the basics, right? You win those one possession games, right? And then you take things back from Cass Tech. And I think that's exactly what they're going to be looking to do this year. And they're going to run to the table all the way back to the D3 state championship game.
A couple of West Side connections on this final one on our top 5 list, the power rankings over in the Detroit area. First of all, shout out my man, Casey Wyla, that is up there, the athletic director at De La Salle. Hey, man, we go back to 2020 in Traverse City when I was broadcasting for two teams that played 46 combined times against one another in one summer. Yes, his brother actually allowed me to live in his apartment in Traverse City for $500 a month. Yeah, that was a dream. So appreciate the Wyla family. Casey, what's going on? Also, Dan Roan, their head coach, who used to be the head coach at Grand Rapids West Catholic. I still have trouble looking him in his eyes. He just has that intimidation factor about him. I don't really know what it is. But his son Gabe, I worked with him for a long time, so obviously I know the Roan family. But let's get into De La Salle. I don't think a top five list in the Detroit area is ever complete without Warren De La Salle. I think they deserve a spot in there every single year. I remember the last playoff game I broadcasted was them in Birmingham Groves, and it was over by the time the first quarter wrapped up, essentially. Very good, very deep. Maybe some concerns. I know they had some injury issues. I look at their defensive line that's really stout. Anthony Cartwright the third is back, the tight end. He can certainly make some catches. I think of their linebacking core, which has some depth pieces back. They're looking stronger. I think if they can make some, maybe answer some questions defensively, this is a team that could very well be back and winning another state championship. What do you see out of the Pirates? Pilots in 2026.
Yes, the Pilots. Yeah. I mean, this is a team that had a little bit of a stumble, weird off year, right? They lost quite a few games by quite a bit last year, but they were also 2 wins away from having a winning season, right? In the regular season, that is. So this is a team, again, like I just said, they got hot, right? And they really blew out quite a bit of teams in those first 3 rounds of the playoffs until they were met with DeWitt there in that semifinal. But this is a De La Salle team that they're going to lead the entire metro area in turnover margin. I mean, this is they have one of the better defenses in the state. They will record a takeaway in every regular season game. That is something that they like to strive themselves on. So I think they get back to their winning ways, and I think last year was just kind of a dud. But even with a dud regular season, they came away with some hardware at the end of it all. So can you even really call it a dud if you're winning a district championship and a regional championship? But yeah, De La Salle, they're on their way back up. That's for sure.
Let's take a break here on In the Huddle. When we come back, we'll get to some of the most requested teams on our social media page and one particular character that is the most persistent person I have ever seen in the history of social media. That's our Dwajak friend. We'll get that when we come back here on In the Huddle.
Located in Rockford, Phoenix Roofing and Exteriors is your family-owned and operated roofing experts, proudly serving our West Michigan neighbors with integrity. From roof replacements and repairs to full siding, gutters, and exterior upgrade, we got you covered. Visit thephoenixroof.com today.
Final segment of In the Huddle, another edition here on Michigan Sports Radio. Listen, people, what you got to do, you got to go to our bio. Click on the link in bio that will take you to the remainder of our social media pages, including our YouTube. That's where our full content is. If you're watching this on YouTube already, share it with your friends, share it with your family members, and those people who you know would be interested in a show like this. Jackson, to wrap things up here today, let's dive into some of the more requested teams on our social media. And you know what? It's not number one on our list, but it has to be number one here today because my good friend has been commenting nonstop for what feels like a month and a half now. And I don't know, I forget what his username is. I'm going to have to look this kid up because social media now, no one puts their first and last name anymore. It's just like a weird username looking thing and then some picture that has nothing to do. Okay, here it is. HP underscore edits ZZ. HP underscore edit ZZ has been commenting since the Reagan administration that he wants us to talk about Dwajak football. So, at long last, here you go, my friend. All right, we're going to get into this a little bit. The Chieftains. All right, last year, Jackson, they had a winning record. All right, they were 5-4. They were 2-1 in the Lakeland Conference. They qualified for the Division 5 playoffs. All of that is really good stuff. Okay, I'm going to ask you this because I really am curious because I know he's been begging for a long time. Dwajak, what should we make of this team?
I mean, they're going to come out and sweep the Lakeland Conference. Woo! Are you kidding me?
Let's go.
How about on top of that, they claim their first victory in the playoffs in over half a decade.
Yeah, let's go.
Shout out to that guy. I mean, the dedication for a show that is as young as what we are, only starting in what, July? This guy's been at it. I mean, props to him, man. But yeah, dude, let's go Chieftains.
I'm officially a Dewajak fan in 2026. I that's my other team. Okay, Nuego is priority number one. Dewajak is now priority number two. I got to see those guys do something this year. So HP edits, we appreciate your tutelage. All right, let's get to another team on this list. How about the Spring Lake Lakers? Jackson, we got some rivalry banter going on In the Huddle already. Well, we haven't even gotten to the season, and we got Spring Lake throwing shade at Grand Haven, okay? And we know those two are on a crash course this year. Last year, 7-4, third in the OK White, District 4 district finalists, okay, after beating Godwin Heights, which was an impressive win. They have a flex bone backfield unit led by experienced ball carriers that are really built for that signature running system when it comes to an option heavy way of going about things, right? Which that is what the flex bone is, and it provides you a lot of options, okay? Their trench anchors need to be good, multi-year returners that are back into the fray. You look at Spring Lake, what do you make of the Lakers? Do you think they're going to run over Grand Haven the way they say they will?
Yes, plain and simple. Spring Lake, I had the chance to call their playoff game against Unity Christian, and that was a school that had Unity Christian on the ropes more so than I saw at any other point in the season while calling Unity Christian, right? They were neck and neck going into that fourth quarter. Then Unity Christian just does what they do best, and they pulled away. They'll grind you down to a pulp until they can pull away, and that's exactly what they did, right? So this is a year that I think Spring Lake finally pulls an upset over a top tier Grand Rapids Power in conference play, and they push all the way to the regional championship. And honestly, I think they could even do that more so. They're a great running team. I think they have a top 3 rushing offense in West Michigan this year. And that's going up against teams like Unity Christian, right? Their playoff run last year was very, very tough. I mean, we talked about Godwin Heights a couple of weeks ago. That was a team that is on the up and up, and they had a breakout season last year. And sometimes you got to come to the field and you've just got to have a shootout. And that's exactly what they did. And it was similar to Unity Christian, right? So a little bit different. Shout out Rob Zeitman, one of the offensive line coaches there, one of the lineman coaches rather. I know he listens to the show. He gave us some nice compliments there. I think a good guy that we should have on the show, but he's doing some great things at offensive line. You talk about that offense that they run. I mean, you need a good offensive line, and that man knows offensive line. So
speaking of the OK White, Wayland Union in the Wildcats, that was another team that got a lot of requests, just 2 wins a season ago, right? They got their win over Hamilton. They had a couple of them. It's when you look at what last year was and then what they have now, you want important pieces in important places, right? And if you have one in the different levels of the field, right? If you look at it in the way of levels, right? Your offensive line, and then you go to your backfield, or you have your defensive line, your backers, your secondary. If you have all of those areas covered, with someone who is a vet, with someone who has experience, and someone who can produce, that gives you a level of options. And again, those guys can help build up that position group as you go. Jake Reeder is back. Running back, middle linebacker, BJ Kerr could be really good. He's a tight end and a fullback, right? You look at Logan Hall, center and defensive tackle. So all of your different levels, in a way, are covered for Wayland Union. Now, what that means, I don't know if that necessarily translates to wins automatically, but they look like they have a lot of hope heading into this year. What do you see from Wayland Union?
2 wins a year ago. I think they double that this year. There was a game last year against Sparta where they lost by 1. Again, that's one of those, did they go for 2? Did they not go for 2 type of thing? And I think they closed the gaps on a number of one of their games as well in that conference, right? The OK White, it's a tough conference, right? But I think they finally win a couple this year. And I think they sneak their way into an 8 seed in the Division 3 playoffs, right? 2002 is the last time they made any noise in the playoffs. Let's see if they can get hot and maybe make some noise in that area this year.
Baptism by fire. It's something a lot of people go through. It is something that almost in many ways, prepares you for the worst that life has to offer. Because if you just get thrown into the fire, you just got to figure it out. And there are people who have made careers out of this because they were just put in the position and told, well, now you have to figure out how to win. And that's where Allendale is right now. You look back at last year, they were 1-8. Again, this is another program that people have been kind of begging for me to talk about. And I'm like, again, it's tough because when you look at how they played in the River Cities Alliance last year, they didn't do all that well. They fought through a grueling schedule. They got that win over Sparta. But when I try to break down this team, what I will say is I think trial by fire is the one sentence that comes to my mind. A young receiving corps that is skilled, but again, needed that year under their belt. An offensive line that is returning a lot of physicality and a lot of players that were on it from a year ago. Sometimes you just go through those cycles where maybe you just don't have the pieces you need. But what do you see out of the Falcons?
I think they're going to be a pesky, pesky team this year. I think they're going to play around with some of the top teams in the conference, and I think they might squeak out a couple of wins, just barely. But I think they squeak off, and maybe just drive some of those really good teams insane. They're in a very tough division in Division 4. They like to call that the epicenter of the private schools in the area, right? And this is, I mean, you look at their schedules in the past, right? It's insane who they've had to play. But this is the third year of the River City as Alliance, and I think they can make some noise as this is a conference that is still growing.
And we're still growing as well here on In the Huddle. This show will continue to blossom and continue to bloom. So we'll have more people on for interviews. We'll do more shows. And again, you guys have been incredible. The only thing you can continue to do is consume our content. And you're watching it right now on YouTube. And if you're watching it elsewhere, again, click the link in bio. All of our social media pages have it. It will take you to the epicenter that gives you access to everything you need to know leading up to the season. But yeah, Jackson, we took the chance to dive into Detroit a little bit, which I think is interesting. Sometimes I think those dudes don't need any more coverage than what they already get. But listen, some really good football over there and some really good prospects as well. So again, we'll do more up north, more K-Zoom, more Battle Creek, but we got a lot more coming your way and hopefully some more unique social media stuff as well. But Jackson, anything else before we wrap this one up?
No, this was a fun episode. I mean, we did cover some teams that probably get featured on ESPN maybe once a year, but it's fun. It's fun to cover teams where you got connections to, such as Casey Weiler, Rob Zeitman, a couple of those guys. It's fun to be able to feature some of those guys that you get to know over the years.
Well, that'll wrap this one up on In the Huddle. Again, we got more episodes coming up, so keep it locked. We'll talk to you next time. So long, everybody.